I increased my income 10 times what I was making before in a year through e-commerce. I'm going to show you how I went from making 275K my first year, ever having a product-based business as a beginner, and then did 350K my second year. I'm talking like I was a complete beginner, worked a minimum wage job, college dropout, almost went homeless type chick. Like that's where I was. That's the type of chick you're listening to right now. So this is what I did from August 2016 to the end of December 2016. It's all Amazon income. There's no other business because, like I said, I failed so many businesses. By the way, my name's Nickia, and I don't want to sugarcoat things and tell you that, you know, I just started the store and I jumped right up to 275K my first year. Because the reality is that I struggled for years before that. I worked a 9 to 5 and retail, and we know how retail can be like soul sucking because it doesn't pay well and it's so demanding, and let's just be real, customers can be a little crusty, if you get what I mean. And I did it for a measly $12 an hour. I made a lot of excuses while I was building. When I tried building other businesses, I made a lot of excuses, and I would always tell myself tomorrow, until guess what? I finally lost my job. And you want to know the real reason? I didn't really believe in myself. I didn't have the guts to pursue something else because I thought that was all that was left for me. And I'm here to tell you that whatever situation you're in, that's not all that's left for what you currently have right now. There's something more for you in the future. And things got real when I lost that job, because now I was like, how am I gonna pay those bills? It was that wake-up call for me to finally decide that it was now time to no longer depend on an employer to pay my bills solely, and how much I was gonna make and how I was gonna run my life. And that was that day where I made that decision, and I was like, it's time now to pursue the life that I want to live. So I did 275K in my currency the first year, and of course, you want to do even more. The first thing I did was I stopped stressing over little things. You see, I was so used to doing that in my job, I was starting to bring it over in this e-commerce business. So I stopped stressing over when a customer situation didn't go my way. I stopped stressing over when a customer wanted to do me dirty, if you get what I mean. And I started to not worry anymore. Like, dude, I used to stop eating for 2-3 days because I would do a mistake or a claim would come up in Amazon, and then like for me it was like the end of the world. I will never forget it because a specific customer ended up getting refunded $100 and something. I remember that was when reality hit, and I was like, did I really just stress over giving back someone $100 and something? That really changed my mindset. And I started putting my energy, that same energy I was putting into stressing out, I started putting into growing my business and focusing on the right things. Let's be real, in the beginning, you don't have much data because you don't have a lot of orders yet, so there's nothing to really analyze. Where I started to really jumpstart my business is I really started to pay attention to what was selling well. And then I would reverse it and be like, okay, so what category is that product in? I'd start to delve deeper in that specific category. And the thing is that a lot of people weren't doing that. A lot of people were just looking for the next new product. But what I did differently is I started looking at data and what was working and what is not working. And when I say data, I mean the orders. So I started really looking at the products and really analyzing, hey, so when we list a fridge, it ain't selling. So stop putting big items. Like, it came to that point. And I chose what was best for me. I was choosing what was working for me. Any type of data you have that you start accumulating is going to become your bestest friend in the whole wide world. And this is just a side note. You could do all the research in the world. You could have all the data in the world. But until you put your product out there, until you test out that specific product, you won't know if it sells or not. Because when you're looking at data, though it does help you to make the best decision possible, it still ain't the real thing. And until you do the real thing and test out the real thing, you don't know. I stopped doing everything manual, especially when I was looking for products. And so what had happened is me and and my accountability partner at the time, we ended up finding a software, and we discovered a way to use it from our own angle that really worked for us to expedite results, expedite sales, increase sales, all the expedition, if that's a word, that you would call growing your store. The reality was is that in the beginning, when I first started, I didn't get taught all this. Like when the coach that I had taught me a very basic method, which was doing everything manual, looking through products, and it's still a good way to look, but it wasn't the best way. Once we found this software called Tactical, that was our bread and butter. We were able to do way more searches, 10 times the searches you'd be doing manual, and this goes for a team. It was very transferable to a team, and that's what made it so beneficial. And there was always new things we were learning, and the beauty of this software, because it was a software, we were able to double down. So I was able to buy multiple softwares. Once I figured out a system that worked, that was it. And I was like, okay, let's order more Tactical. The Tactical was actually made for something else, and we ended up being able to adapt it to the method that we're using on Amazon. So it worked so nicely. I did things myself, and I figured out a rhythm, a momentum, and things were working over and over again. And it wasn't no fluke, because I had to make sure it wasn't a fluke. Then the next step would be to delegate. If you want to grow your store as quickly as possible, if you want to expand, you need to grow a team. And you start where you want to start. But one of the best ways to really grow and increase profits is hiring people. But hiring people on your team is not a walk in the park. I'm not gonna go out and tell you, oh, it's the easiest thing to do, and it's all like flowers and roses, and everything just works out. You hired a person, and they're the best person ever. No. I tell you right now, that ain't it. And you may go through multiple people, and the best part of when you're hiring a team, a virtual team, is it gets easier because you start to learn, and you start to ask better questions, you start to create better processes, and you start to figure out, okay, how can I teach them in a way that they will keep the information and apply what they learn and create results. And that's the only goal you usually have for an employee, is you want them to get better. So you want to make sure that you're giving out the information, you're relaying the training in a way that they can really take it in and learn. When you're hiring a person, it's actually one of the biggest mindset shifts that you do, because your mind's going to be like, don't waste your money. You could just do it yourself and make all the profits. And you're not going to feel like you're ready. Let's just throw it out there. You ain't gonna feel like you're ready and you're like, yes, I'm ready to spend money. It's not like that. If this video has been helpful, like the video and text YouTube. The number's in the description. And I'm gonna share a little story. I actually fired my first ever VA because I felt like, oh, I don't need her. I can do the results all by myself. And so I happily told my accountability partner at the time, my friend, and he was like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, I fired her. I didn't feel like I needed her. I might as well just save the money. And he's like, okay, but how much was she making? And I was like, well, she only made like a high 4-figure sales. And he was like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, they made high 4-figure sales. He was like, no, you need to hire her back. That was the start of my journey of really appreciating virtual assistants in my business. I later discovered that the more people I hired, the more I can expand my business, the more products I could add to my store, which would lead to more volume in the store, which would lead to more sales and more profits. So guess what I did? I hired a team. I hired a whole community. I'm joking. I hired a bigger team. So 80% of sales will come from 20% of whatever you're selling. Take that in. We went on that journey of hiring people, and like I told you earlier, it's not easy. But I finally found people, and I started tweaking the learning styles, tweaking how we're doing things, because I was trying to find ways how to motivate them. If you want to keep your employees and you want them to do well, you need to find out how they tick. And one of the ways that I found was like a cool little hack is I used to track their sales as a whole. So I would just have one sheet and just track their sales with everyone. What I was noticing is that the sales weren't as high as I wanted it. So what I started doing is I actually separated their spreadsheets. So I actually separated them and gave them their own targets. And I'll probably show you an example so you can understand what I mean. I noticed that when I started to split it and give them their own targets personally, like sales went through the roof. Like I'm talking like 5, 10 times. So the reason why I was able to do $100,000 more the following year is I created systems, I created routines. I knew exactly what I needed to do each day. And let's be more specific. I knew what exactly the money making tasks were to get to the goal that I was looking to get to. I'm gonna be real, it's hard to double down and increase sales if you're a one-man show. Like if you don't have that that mindset, like that bigger picture mindset of, okay, I wanna grow a team one day, and you're just always a one-man show, you're always gonna be limited. I'm not saying you're not gonna be able to grow, but if you want to grow, you need to grow a team so that way you're able to give your team the task that you don't actually need to do. Because let's be real, you don't need to be doing everything, so that way you could do the main task that's most important to get your company to where it needs to be. One of the biggest things that holds people back, trust. They may have tried someone in the past and then they're like, oh, well, it didn't work. And then they don't try again because they're like, well, this is a waste of my time. It's not a waste of your time, because when you find that right person, you are going to stick to them. And if you want to scale, you need to trust someone quick. Else you're always going to stay in that same spot. As you give, you get back. That's how it works. So as you're paying someone's salary and you're blessing them, you're bound to get back. You're going to get back tenfold. That's usually how it works, right? Because you're blessing someone else's life. So think of it that way. So change your mindset around that. Have a plan. It doesn't have to be right now, especially if you're absolutely not ready for that. But have a plan that, okay, so if I want to make like an extra 100,000 compared to what I did, or extra or 10 times more than what I did the previous year, I need to start thinking that mindset of, okay, it's time to delegate, it's time to double down, it's time to look at all the details and look at it all around. Don't like ignore what's going on in your business. Like you have to know what's going on so that you can scale. That's the whole point, right?